This show is a proud member of the Nerdy Legion Podcast Network. Get more at nerdylegion.com. Enjoy the show.
This is Brightside Home Theater.
Hey, home theater nerds, I'm DJ, and this is the Brightside Home Theater Podcast, the podcast that's all about the sights, the sounds, and the scenes. And we have a bunch of sights and sounds and scenes because we're going to be talking about Hurricane Heist in 4K. The movie came out in 2018, and I've been holding on to this one for a little while. I'll explain after we go through all the scenes and everything why this is kind of special to me today, this week, this particular week. But let's get to the picture, the sound and stuff before we start breaking down scenes of this movie. And first and foremost, this is a home theater movie. This is a home theater breakdown. I don't want to talk about the acting, this might not have happened exactly the way it happened, the possibility of people being blown away in the wind and all that. This is about the fun of sitting down in your theater or in your living room with a 5.1 surround system or better and just having fun listening to the sights and the sounds of all of these scenes that we're going to talk about, because we could talk all day long about, is this the best movie in the world? No. Is it the best acting? No. Possibilities. My buddy John, his mind is going to explode when he sees this with all of his coincidences and stuff. So just turn your brain off, get some popcorn, watch Hurricane Heist in 4K with Dolby Atmos, and you'll have an absolute blast because the picture is so good. I got to tell you, I was blown away by how good the picture was in this movie. The contrast was really nice, great black levels, nice deep blacks, there was some cloudy stuff and grays and stuff. That really, really nice gradation in almost every scene practically, right? And even their faces, the texture in their faces that you could see, the detail of like, whether it was, just the pimples or not even pimples, but just the texture of their face but the pores, a guy to a girl. The girl's got that nice porcelain skin. You could tell that in this compared to some of these guys that are, a little rough, been out in the weather for a while, and their skin tone and everything. It was very, very evident in this movie. The picture was so good, and I wish this was like an Academy Award style movie where people would talk about this more, but this is I haven't seen anybody talk about this. I was going to say very little talked about movie. I haven't seen anybody talk about this movie. And but like I said, the picture, the 4K picture, really good. The sound, the Dolby Atmos, this has everything you want, and we're going to go through it when we do the scenes. It has everything you want out of a sound mix. It has deep, rumbly bass, comes up from the floor, comes up, hits you in the chest at times, comes up through your seat. Times where it's very quiet, there's conversations going on, and you get a nice rumble because there's a hurricane outside. Spoilers, okay? And really, really cool there. Mixes moving around the room like you would imagine in a movie like this with a hurricane. Sounds moving around the room all over the place. Nice, really nice use of overheads. There is one particular scene we're going to get to where you can hear the rain overhead. You're inside a vehicle and you can hear the rain pitter-pattering on the roof. I can't say enough about the sound. It was just so much fun and it's on Amazon. I don't know what it costs. It's not much, like $19. And I don't think you're going to go wrong in owning this movie if you like to have fun in your theater. If you're looking for something to use all the channels at once, have a great picture and just leave your brain at the door and just chomp on some popcorn. And speaking of popcorn, the popcorn is popping. So while that popcorn is popping, let's get to these scenes. And what do we always start with? The opening scene. See? No lie. While I'm recording my podcast, the whole family, that's my wife's wife. Hi. That's my wife, Jen, my dogs. Everybody's in the basement. My kids are at work. Everybody's in the basement. We've got to hide here because there's a tornado coming through. Irony? Simpatico? I don't know. I'll be back with the podcast in a moment. And we're back. What the heck? You can't make this stuff up. They're literally sitting here trying to record. I'm just about to get into, where were we? I don't even, the popcorn was popping. I'm just about to get into the opening scene and my phone goes off. My wife's coming down the stairs. She's watching the news upstairs. And I'm like, so I edited all that garbage out. And I'm like, I'm going to say a little bit upset. Like, I'm in the middle of something here. And I'm like, and it was funny because my wife actually said, do you want us to go back upstairs? And I'm like, for a podcast? So that I'm recording a podcast and my wife and dogs get blown away in a tornado because, I got to get this out. So we're sitting there watching the news and we're watching the tornado, whatever. I don't know if one touched down or not. Obviously, my house is still here. But I'm like, hey, you know what? Life gives you lemons. Let's make lemonade. So I'm like, let's make a video of us sitting here watching this and I'll put it in the podcast. And you know what? When something happens and you got to make an edit, lean into it. And that's what I did. But it couldn't have been more appropriate. Hurricane Heist. And like I said earlier, we'll get to more of that at the end of all of this. And why I did this movie this week. It does actually, this movie coming up this week actually hits me in the heart a little bit. And I'll explain why. But I know you guys probably aren't going to like this movie. It is wonky. It is badly acted. It is all of those things. I mentioned that already. So with the popcorn popping, let's get that popcorn going again, and then we'll get into this opening scene. All right. No tornadoes, nothing coming through. Here we go. We're into spoilers now. Opening scene, and you get wind and thunder right off the bat coming in overhead. Nice rumble of thunder overhead. You get the wind going around your room, and the screen is basically black with some opening credits, like whatever, few words across the screen. And then it just opens up and you see the storm and you see very, very reminiscent of Twister. The opening scene of Twister. It's basically the same thing. I mean, we're into spoilers here. And so the two little boys, they see their father get killed, just like in Twister. She saw her dad get killed. So you have all of that. It's very reminiscent of that. But this is in 4K with Dolby Atmos, which sounds that's what we want out of Twister. So that's what I really enjoyed about this movie. It's just so much fun. Great bass when the tow truck gets run off the road. It really ramps up from there. It already was ramped up, but check out the 4K picture in this opening scene too. It's very evident how good this picture looks and how much fun it's going to be to watch this throughout the movie, because the two little boys sitting in the front of the pickup, in front of the tow truck in the front seat, the yellow slickers or yellow raincoats they're wearing, very vibrant, lots of good detail, great black levels, great contrast. The entire picture looks fantastic. But then, even the storm, the grays and the clouds and everything like that. But of course, the house starts tipping and tilting and rolling. Your room is so active. You can hear the storm coming from the right at about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, I think it was. The storm is it's coming from the right side of your screen. So like the father's still outside at the time. The storm's coming from the right. You can hear it on the right. The wind's blowing from right to left across your room. Accurate to what you see on the screen. And that's what this scene lasts, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And like I said, you get that house tilting, the house tips over with the boys in it, and you get sounds of boards going all around you, everything whipping around the room. Great scene, great opening scene. And if this doesn't make you forgive everything that's going to happen, all the coincidences that happen, what are the odds? All the hokey things that people can't literally do. You can't hang upside down from a cable in a storm like that, which they did in Twister as well, but they did it a little bit more realistically from a belt. This one here, that scene comes up later. But right after at 4:30, the picture changes and we go into space of the satellite looking down on Earth. And then we go to the National Weather Service, but everything is nice and clean. The scene is nice and clean. Everything looks beautiful. And this gets into that 4K picture that I was talking about. The National Weather Service, all of the images, all of the computer screens, everything very clear, very vibrant. Beautiful looking picture, great black levels, everything like that to go with it. And then from here, we're going to jump. I've talked enough about that. Let's jump right to about 8 minutes and 55 seconds. We get the convoy of green semis going off-road. They basically go through the field to get around the traffic. But you get a fantastic bass rumble come up through your seat. And then as the trucks are moving across your screen at about the 9-minute mark, you'll see the trucks moving from about 11 o'clock down to about 4 o'clock across your screen. But the sound pans of them, and their air horns, the air horns move diagonally across your room from the front left to the right rear. And then, of course, and you get that nice bass rumble, like I was saying. So the room is very, very active. Then they change to a scene with I think it's like the guys on the tower, the weather tower or whatever, and maybe it's a Wi-Fi, a cellular tower. But the scene changes to that, and the storm again is on the right side, so you get a nice bass rumble on the right side of your room. It's a really cool transition there, how the whole room is very active, and then they move into that scene where it gets a little quieter, but you still get a really nice bass rumble there. Pretty cool. Really enjoyed that. Then at 21:20 lockdown, and this is where we find out who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, or so you think at the time. And the bad guys are actually using tranquilizer darts, but on the first one, the guy that goes down, he has his rifle, and he goes down and the gun starts firing. So the good guys, the security, is actually firing live rounds. So you get really, really nice sound of guns going off in this scene with that. But also pay attention to how cool the tranq gun sounds in comparison, because you have the nice bass, the nice punch from the guns with the live rounds, but then you get the of the tranq darts being fired. Of course, there's a nice score going along with this. Really, really active scene and a lot of fun, especially when you try to listen for the two different style of guns that are being fired, which I thought was pretty cool. Moving on to 3013, Not Good. And I call this Not Good because that's where Maggie Grace's character, Casey, I believe it was, says this is not good. And that's not what I'm talking about here. What I want you to look at in this scene, or here anyways, is the storm outside and how the thunder is moving overhead back and forth. Great use of all of your surround channels if you have just 5.15 system or 7 system with Atmos. The way they move the storm around your room and it shifts, you can hear the thunder just moving like left to right and right to left, back and forth, depending on like when they're in the car. You can also hear some rain on the roof when they're inside the car. Dialogue crystal clear the entire time. But she gets out of the car right after she says this is not good, and she's got to go search around the treasury because this is where she just pulls up with the brother that's the repairman. And they pull up to the place and she's got to figure out how to get in or whatever. She's got her gun drawn. But the rain in the room and the thunder moving around the room, very subtle, but really, really cool and really nice how they moved it over your head and around behind you and back and forth. Just a lot of fun. And again, this is what we all hope for when we get Twister in 4K. But this here is like just these storm sounds moving around sound really, really cool. Then jumping ahead to 3252, Saved. And this is where Casey gets saved by the other brother, and he shows up, coincidentally happens to be making his way down the road in his looks like $1 million hurricane vehicle, but he shows up to save her because everybody opens fire on her, and the guy chasing her opens fire on her. But again, with the storm here and the rain and everything, and then the gunfire ricocheting around the room because this hurricane vehicle is bulletproof apparently. So that is pretty cool, I guess. But yeah, so just listen to the ricochets, the gunfire. It's a really cool scene. Really enjoy. It's very quick, but really cool how that gunfire just plays around your room. Then at 3715, we get Shotgun. That's what I called it because Will and Casey go to the sheriff because that's where you go for safety. And here's a double cross of double crosses. The sheriff's in on it too. So they're being held up in his office. The shotgun goes off. That's why I labeled it Shotgun. Really cool sound. Nice big bang there. But we get a really cool shootout here inside the building. But then listen when they go outside. And again, that hurricane vehicle pulls up and the bass it's got to be a V8. It sounds fantastic, but you get that really nice rumble as he pulls up and pulls away, and then the sheriff comes out and they fire at the vehicle, so you get the gunfire going off there. We have more storm sounds going. Then they go to a nice pan of the vehicle going by, so you get the sounds going. I believe it was right to left, but really nice rumble from that hurricane vehicle just going by your screen. Really, really cool. Then moving on just another few minutes to 4044, we get Lockpick. And this is where the mechanic brother, Breeze, I think his name is, which is kind of funny because you'd think the weatherman brother would have the name Breeze because here we have Breeze doing the weather, but his brother is called Breeze, I guess. So anyways, so he's picking a lock. And like I said, start at 4044 on this scene here, or actually as you're watching this movie play out, it's like they transition right from outside, the truck's pulling up, very nice rumble. You get the sounds of the storm, but then we go inside the building. So you get a nice clean image, crisp image, but the sound is crisp as well. And there's not really a lot of ambient sounds here because they're inside the building, very quiet. But the score and the way the score plays out, they even moved that around the room. And there's some ticking and going on over your head. And it moves. It's not stagnant. It moves and bounces back and forth, much like the storm is doing when you're outside, which I thought that was a really cool detail because it's kind of a quieter scene where you're seeing the brother there sitting there just picking at the lock. But then as the main bad guy, I forget his name, the main bad guy unlocks the door to come downstairs to the room, you get a really nice like boom, boom, like unlocking of that big heavy lock. And that goes off, I believe it was like kind of behind you a little bit, but it was like over you as well because he's up some stairs from where the brother is picking the lock. Really cool use of sound there. But what I really liked about this scene and why I made note of it was because of that detail of how they moved the score and bounced it overhead, using the overheads as well. So that I really like when they do stuff like that. Little details like that are really, really a lot of fun. Moving on to 42 minutes even, and this is where we get some nice rain overhead. So Casey and Will Will? Yeah, that's the brother, the weatherman brother, like I was just saying. Casey and Will are driving along in the hurricane vehicle, and regardless of the conversation, crisp, clear dialogue, but the overheads are really put to use here with the rain just going, like you could just hear it over your head, like you're in that vehicle with them. Really, really cool. I got up and walked around and put my ear to my overheads just to hear that rain coming through. It's like, it was really, really cool. I mean, that's one of those things. This is textbook Atmos scene, right? Textbook object-based surround scene where it's a demo material where you have that rain hitting the roof of your theater and it just sounds like it's hitting the roof of your theater. Really, really cool. Jumping ahead to 4650 Raging Storm, and it gets 1 box of popcorn. Oh, by the way, the last scene, 42 minutes, rain, also gets 1 box of popcorn and the little red arrow saying overhead. So when you go through the notes, you'll know that's where the overhead scene is. Overheads are used throughout this movie. It is just that fantastic. But anyways, at 4650 Raging Storm, 1 box of popcorn. Like I said, start this scene at 4650. Will and Casey are inside the hurricane vehicle. They're talking about their plan. You can hear them. You can hear the storm raging outside. It's really loud. But then at exactly 46 minutes and 54 seconds, see what I did there? I started you 4 seconds early. Will opens the door to the hurricane truck or vehicle or whatever, right? He opens the door and your room just goes, whoa, like all of the storm noises get even louder. And now he has to go out into the storm. And when he does, you hear more of that storm. And again, a lot like Twister, it had some like animalistic sounds to it moving around, but wind going around your room and everything. But what I made note of was at that 54-second mark right there, right when he opens the door, and how your room you thought it was really loud, but it was actually being muffled by the vehicle. And then when he opens that door, boom, really cool. Really, really cool. Jumping ahead to 4935 gas station, and they're having a big shootout here. Room's been active for a while. Everything's going crazy. Everything, I mean, your ears are ringing, everything. Boom, boom, gunfire going off. And then the military vehicle, big truck, guy gets shot and he's dead. But he was driving, and now the vehicle goes off into the gas station and we get a fantastic bass explosion. And you get the boom, 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 and it just comes up through the seat. But I also felt it pushing on my chest, like coming at me. Really, really nice bass here. Really enjoyed it. Just again, check that out. 4935, really, really deep, crisp bass that you could feel through your seat, and it was like a punch in the chest as well. Really, really cool. Moving up to 53 minutes even, we have Hubcaps, and I almost named this one Gambit just for fun, because this scene here, this is another one of those scenes like, that can't happen. Maybe, I guess, I don't know. But Will gets the idea. He's like, I got this or whatever. And he runs over, and they did a little foreshadowing earlier. Like he looked at the pile of hubcaps and he went, I got an idea. We're out of bullets, but I got a pile of hubcaps. So he goes over and he's hiding behind something. He's just throwing the hubcaps out into the wind, and these 100-mile-an-hour winds are grabbing these hubcaps and sending them on down the street. But the sound is really, really cool. It's like, I mean, if you think of the realism of this, I don't know, but the sound is really cool. You got hubcaps flying around your room, and it's a metallic, high-pitched voice sound, which I thought was cool, like, because it's different than the rest of the movie where we have all the nice bass and the noises of the storm, but then you throw in this metallic noise so you know it's a hubcap, and it's like going down different parts of your room, down the sides, up over you. I swear there was one scene that came up over my head from behind me and down through the middle of my front screen. Not that I have a rear screen. But it was really, really cool. maybe unrealistic. I don't know, but I was fully invested. I was having fun. My brain was outside the room, but it was such a fun scene and a little ridiculous, but still a lot of fun. All right, let's move along. We're going to jump ahead a whole almost 6 minutes here to 5934, Loud and Clear. And this is where the main bad guy has a standoff with the police, the sheriff, and all of his posse. And they're inside the building. They're inside the treasury. And so obviously the main bad guy, backstabs him because that's what they do. And he pulls out his gun and he just, in the standoff, he fires and kills the sheriff. But the gunshot inside the building sounded so good, so loud and clear. You get a little reverb because you're in the building, and then you hear the main bad guy yell, "Now that was loud and clear," and he says it, and there's reverb to that. Really, really cool sounding scene, and that gunshot was so crisp, and then you get that reverb along with it. Really cool. Jumping ahead only a little bit. These are coming fast and furious. And did I just say that? This was made by the Fast and Furious people. These scenes are coming fast and furious because there's so many of them. I know I've missed some. This entire movie from beginning to end is just, it is kind of just demo worthy for sound and picture. It's not going to win an Academy Award, no doubt about that. But for as far as going for sound and picture, you just put it on and let it go. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. But let's move up to 1 hour and 46 seconds rumble. And I'm giving this a box of popcorn because it is fun. It was fun. I've watched this scene a bunch of times back and forth. Just because it's almost like there's no reason for it other than just like, let's just put this in there for fun. So this is a scene where Casey's at a mall. So she's inside the mall and you can hear the storm going outside the mall. So you have that going on. Then the scene jumps to back at the treasury. The main bad guy, he's on the radio talking to Casey. So you get some ambient sound there. But there's a score here. There's a rumble to his scenes inside the treasury that just doesn't exist when you're at the mall. So when you're at the mall, you hear the rumble and the sounds of a storm. You get nice bass from that. Sounds really cool. Okay, now go back into the treasury because the scene's flipping back and forth between Casey and the main bad guy and on your screen, right? Inside the treasury, there's a low frequency rumble that just comes up through your seat. There's no reason for it to be there. It's just part of the score, I believe. And it's just, it's not the storm. It's not anything like that. But if you start this scene, like I said, at 1 hour 46 seconds even, he's talking. The main bad guy's walking through his office there and he's talking. And at 1 hour and 50 seconds, pretty much exactly, there's a rumble that comes up and it shakes your room. It tickles your butt. It, like, your seat vibrates, everything. It is so deep. It is so visceral. It's ridiculous. And it wasn't there any other time. It's there like throughout the scene, like like you feel it under your seat. It's part of the score. But at that 50-second mark, 1 hour even and 50 seconds, it just intensifies for no apparent reason other than, I don't know. It's not part of the dialogue or anything like that, but it was just really cool. It's just there. And you're just, maybe this is the part they expected, the 1 hour mark, people dozing off or something, and they wanted to wake them up. I don't know, but that's what it was. And it's just really cool. Check that out. That's why I gave it a box of popcorn. It really activates your subwoofers, and just like I said, just that little rumble, and then all of a sudden that little rumble turns into a big rumble that vibrated my walls, vibrated my room, and it's only like 2 seconds long, but it was very intense. Really, really cool. Let's jump ahead about 5 minutes to 1 hour, 5 minutes, 35 seconds, Pressure, 2 boxes of popcorn. Kind of because of the scene itself and the sound is incredible, which I'll get to, but also because this is the one that I want everybody to be like, this is the one you got to go see because this is crazy. It can't happen. I left my brain at the door. I was fully invested. And even then I'm like, oh, come on. Come on, people. So Will and Casey are inside the mall, and Will gets the idea that if the barometric pressure inside the building is different from outside the building. Once it gets to a certain point, it creates a vacuum, so they'll shoot out the ceiling and everybody will get sucked out, but they're going to be safe because they're going to be tied to the cables, and then the cables release them. Why wouldn't they have tightened that so they didn't have to go up through the building? I don't know. It was weird. It's like they go up through the window, and then that scene where they show them in the air and they're outside the mall and they're flailing away, being held by the cables, and somehow they have the strength to pull themselves back down. And even that scene when they grab the ground and they're upside down, that looked wonky. That scene there is just wrong. Because wouldn't they have been like their back's been broken? Not to mention that the bad guys get sucked out and and one goes off of the beam and then the other one just goes away. But then no debris hits them, nothing. They're fine. The good guys, the debris misses the good guys. Okay, that's my little bit of a rant for the scene. Now let's get to the part that I loved. The sound, the bass, when he shoots out the ceiling and it's like shoots out that window and whoosh, and the sounds comes up. Your room comes alive. The sound, the debris all going up, the screaming of the people panning around the room. So much activation. That's why I gave it 2 boxes of popcorn. So much activation around your room. So much sound moving. Your rear channel's giving you bass. Your front channel's giving you bass. Your overheads, wind whipping around. And of course, good guys are all surviving, but it's just a really, really cool scene for a demo material and to have a good laugh. You want to have a friend over and you want to show them some demo material and then have a good laugh. This is the scene to do. Maybe I should put next to it like laughing, crying face. I think I will. That's pretty funny. So pressure, 105.35, 2 boxes of popcorn, and a laughing, crying face for the impossibility of this even ever taking place. Okay, back to reality. Not really. Let's get to 1 hour, 11 minutes even, storm surge. This is where the ocean is overtaking the city. It's knocking over boats. It's really, really nice bass here. Really crisp. And as things are being knocked at you, as the storm's coming in at the front of the room, it's knocking things at you. So the sound is moving towards you. I don't know how they did it, but I really had a great sense of the sound actually coming at me. So they were probably moving the sound subtly from front to rear, but it was like the noise of the waves crashing in, great bass. So they're probably moving that bass ever so slightly to just give you that sense that this stuff was all coming at you. Really, really cool. Check that out at 1 hour and 11 minutes even. Moving up, we're going to jump a whole almost 10 minutes, I think. 10 minutes here to 1 hour, 21 minutes, 27 seconds. Great pan. It gets 1 box of popcorn. Here we go. It is a great pan, but not because, there were great pans throughout this movie. I mentioned one earlier about the convoy. Well, we're back with basically the same convoy. They're going down the road. They're trying to outrun the storm, which is chasing them from behind. And so the trucks pan from the middle of your center screen to the left rear. Really, really cool. But what was really, really nice about it, it was very distinct, very clear. All 3 trucks, vroom, 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 all down to the side of your room. But what was really nice is right after that, you got the storm chasing them off in the distance, but it's to the right side of your screen. So you get the storm rumble coming on the right. right after they pan by to the left. So what I liked about it, what was great about it to me, was the fact that they took the focus. You're looking at the trucks. They took the focus of your ears and moved it to the left rear of the room, but then hit you with that vroom of the storm off in the right front of your room. And that's what, so you get the pan of the trucks going one way, and then boom, all of a sudden your attention is grabbed by the storm on the right side of your room in the front of the room. Really, really cool. Kind of fun. This is like that to me, that's fun. It's like, we're going to do this with the sound, and we're going to make everybody's attention go this way, and then we're going to jump it to the front. Fun. That's fun. That's what this is all about, and that's what these movies are for. We're not here to win Academy Awards. I'm telling you, we're here for fun, and this one was a lot of fun. All right, let's move on to 1 hour, 27 minutes, 10 seconds. Focus. So this scene here is, we're in the final climactic scene, and lots going on. Trucks are moving, missing silos, doing all of that stuff. Your room is completely engaged, completely engaged, right? Well, at the 1 hour, 21 minute, 27 second, 1 hour, 27 minutes and 10 second mark, Casey's in the back. She has a guy on top of her. They're fighting in the back of the semi. Will's driving it along, and he goes off of a little bit of a jump, and he yells to her. He's like, "Are you ready, Casey?" or something. But as the truck goes into the air, it separates her from the guy that she's fighting with, who's on top of her. She's laying on her back. And in this scene here, it's like now she gets that moment where she can pull the gun out. But listen to it comes in from behind you, and as that's coming in, the full engagement of the room is going away, meaning like she's getting focused to be able to pull the gun on this guy, and they're separating apart. She's looking at him. It kind of goes into a slow motion type scene, but the rear of your room is engaged with this focus kind of sound, like I just said, right? But the front of your room is going away. The sound is going away. So and then that focus sound is starting to fill the room. You got to hear it to understand what I'm saying. But I thought it was really cool how it came in around you and over you. So the sound was not only just moving from the rear channels, it was moving to the side channels, because I have 7.4 to whatever. Anyways, I'm all confused. But anyways, I have 7 channels on ear level. And then I have the 4 overheads. So my 2 rear channels are bringing the sound, and then it moves to the side, and then it moved over my head as well. So that focus noise was really cool. A lot of fun to listen to a couple of times to understand actually what's going on, because you're also noticing that the middle or the front of your room, all that dynamic sound that you were getting all along is gone. It's all going away. I mean, it's not completely, it's just diminished, but it's like really how they transitioned that was really cool. Then brought it all back, because she shoots them and they throw them out the door and everything, and you're right back into the climax of the movie, the big, here we go. So let's get to that. Let's get to the next scene at 1 hour, 29 minutes, 22 seconds. Red Dog Omaha 22. So Breeze tells his brother, they call the play, and they need to get the bad guy. They got 3 semis going down the road. Storm's coming from behind them, and they need to get the bad guy to the rear of them because they want the storm to take him out. And, you get it. All right. You've seen the movie if you're listening this far, or if you're not, then you will, because if you listen this far, you don't care about spoilers. Anyways, so the sound here, storm's coming from behind. Pay attention. It's really, really nice how they put that storm behind you at different parts of these scenes towards the end here. But when these 2 trucks come in together, the crunch, the bass, really, really cool. I gave it a box of popcorn, because you have the full room engagement of this storm going on all around you, and then that nice crunch, the bass sound of when these trucks collide to, when they smush them, the Malachi crunch, I think we used to call it when I was a kid, and they box them in and they hit them, and the bass was really, really cool. Moving up to 1 hour, 31 minutes even. Boom. And this is where the bad guy is looking back at the storm. Your room's going crazy, as I've said a million times. And he looks back, he yells something to the storm like, "You're not going to get me," or whatever. And something comes out of the sky, lands on his truck. The truck explodes, and you get really, really nice bass here. Really nice explosion. And then the scene moves right along. I mean, the growls of the storm, the thunder, the roar, everything, your overheads are going at 1 hour and 31 minutes, 58 seconds. We get a scream. I gave it 2 boxes of popcorn. But what's really cool about this is, like I said, full room engagement. They're trying to transition. They're trying to move everybody out of the truck that's breaking down over to the truck that's going to get away with the good guys in it. And the first bad guy, which is the woman, she's trying to get over. And of course, I mean, these trucks are going side by side, but the bad guy's truck gets sucked up into the storm and the woman goes with it, but very subtly. And that's why I put it in there, because the scene's really cool. The sounds are really cool. Everything's awesome. But her scream was very subtle. They reduced it to like, you can't hear it because you couldn't hear it in this storm, but it's on the left side of your room and you can hear it go up and disappear on the left side of your room. Like it raises, like the left side you can hear the sound go up and disappear just like she is. And it was a really cool ending for the sound. This movie, again, it's not the best movie in the world, but it is just so much fun for sound and picture. And speaking of picture, the storm, I know it's all CGI and everything, but look at how cool everything looked, how nice the storm looked, the grays and the black levels in it. And while we were doing these scenes, I was looking them up. And I decided, I'm like, where you can find this. You can rent this on iTunes, Apple iTunes, on an Apple TV, or actually anything else. But on my Apple TV, you can rent it for $3.99 and you get 4K and Dolby Atmos. And I did some of these scenes in that since the beginning. I went back and forth. And they sound... everything's there. The transitions, the pans, everything's there. It's just not as dynamic. You don't get as deep of bass. You wouldn't know the difference unless you A/B'd it like I did. What you would notice is if you just rent it, you're going to see everything I saw, and you're maybe missing out on a little bit deeper. Even that scene that I talked about with the rumble, where it's rumble under the seat, that it was just really cool. It wasn't there for any reason, but it was there, but it just didn't, it wasn't as deep. But it was still there. You still get everything that you can get. And it's in 4K with Dolby Atmos, rented on iTunes for $3.99. I don't think you'll go wrong. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you want to buy it, you can pick it up. That's what I did. I've owned it because it's 4K. It has Atmos. I got to own these discs, right? So that's my review of this. Now to the part that I was going to say where it pulls on the heartstrings a little bit. And the reason I saved it for this week, this is the 10th anniversary of a hurricane coming through my neighborhood this weekend. And I have a generator. If you heard my other podcast, my buddy John and I talked about it. And at the time, I've had a generator since I built the house in 2001. And my entire neighborhood lived out of my house for almost a week because we had a hurricane come through. We lost power in this town, in our neighborhood, from a Saturday to Thursday night. And that hurricane, we had people would come here. They all stayed, they slept in their homes, but every morning it was like The Walking Dead. Everybody came to our house for the hot coffee. We had coffee on the table. Everybody contributed. Everybody used this house as the place to be for that week because we had nobody had any power. We gave everybody 5-gallon buckets of water so they could go home and use their toilet. You know, you can flush your toilet that way. They slept in their homes because it was August, so they could still sleep in their homes comfortably at night. But everybody, you go to work and come home from work, everybody came here. We all had dinner together, and we've celebrated it. We celebrated it for like 8 years, I think, or 5 years, maybe it was. And we'd have that party, and we were thinking of, we're trying to do it again this year, but everybody's gone their separate ways. But it was really, really cool. And when we had the party, we'd have the party on a Saturday night, and we'd all get together and we'd hang out in the house. And then everybody would come back Sunday morning for brunch. And because that's what we did every day from Saturday until Thursday. And on that Saturday in the storm, we had planned this. We said we'll use this. I have a generator. We can run the house. We can all come here. And we said we'll start as soon as the power goes out. And at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, I think the power went out, and it was bad out. And we have a garage. So I'd take our truck, leave the garage, drive to each house, pick everybody up. And that way they didn't have to be in the rain. We'd pull in the garage, and we were lucky enough. Everybody got here safe, but we lost a lot of trees in the area. You couldn't leave in trees were down. People couldn't get to us. It was crazy. But a lot of fun, a lot of great memories. And that was 10 years ago. We can't believe it. Our kids were so little, and I have a great story of it ending. So Thursday night, we're all hanging out. We'd just gotten power back, but we were having one last dinner together. And I saying to my buddy Derek, who does listen to this podcast, Derek, we were saying like, oh, one of the kids are going to show up here tomorrow morning. And of course, Friday morning, I come downstairs. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's his son standing in my kitchen. He's like, I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I came for breakfast. And it was just so fun. And we laugh about it ever since. Fantastic story, fantastic time. And it's just a great memory. And I thought, what's better than doing a hurricane movie? And in the middle of it, on the week of the anniversary of the hurricane coming through here, we have the remnants of a hurricane coming through. We have tornado warnings, and I get thrown off the air because of a weather alert. And what do you know? I mean, it all worked out. It all worked out perfect. So that's where we're at. So, all right, let's move on. Hope you guys enjoyed the story. If you haven't checked out that movie, check it out. $3.99, rent it on Apple iTunes. Like I said, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a lot of home theater fun there. So, all right, let's move this along. Before another tornado comes through my town and shuts me down for some reason, or another weather alert, let's get to some thank yous. Thank you to my 14 patrons over there at patreon.com. Thanks for the support. You guys make this all possible. But if you'd like to join my 14 patrons and support the podcast monetarily, you can go over to patreon.com and patreon.com/Brightside Home Theater. And that's where you'll find my page. Or you can go to the website, my website, brightsidehometheater.com, click on the red button, click on that. It'll take you to Patreon, and you can join up on Patreon and support monthly for as little as $1 a month, up to whatever you'd like. So for $12 a year, you could support the podcast. That would be great. Looking for that number to grow. That would help. But it doesn't hurt that you don't at all, because there's other ways to support the podcast. You could go TeePublic. I've mentioned that in the past, where you can get the t-shirts, tpublic.com, Brightside Home Theater, or you simply just join me on Twitter. Join me and bring something to the podcast that I can talk about here. And I have a new Twitter follower this week, Dave Anderson. Thank you for following along. And he was brought to us, I do believe, by my buddy Steve George over there on Twitter. And he cited me. He tweeted a comment to Dave Anderson about Dave Anderson's home theater. He's building his home theater. I believe it's just a sound bar right now, and he wants to upgrade. And what did Steve say? He says what at Brightside HT says, we're always upgrading, always in the process of evolving. Our theaters are forever evolving because equipment evolves, technology evolves, and we want to keep up with it. That's really what this hobby is all about. So as your theaters evolve, so does the experience. And right now, like I said, Dave has a sound bar. So he had asked Steve a question. He said, what are your top 5 home theater movies, home theater picture movies? And because I believe he got a new TV as well, if I remember the tweets correctly. And that is the most common question I get. What are your top 5 home theater experiences? And I chimed in. I happened to be at the time this happened, I happened to be at my future son-in-law's graduation party, but I had to chime in with Lord of the Rings for picture because I believe Dave was specifically asking for picture. So I chimed in with the Lord of the Rings trilogy because nothing compares to the Lord of the Rings trilogy right now. Nothing is better than, I should say. There is stuff that is equal to, and I will say Hurricane Heist is really, I don't know why, I really enjoyed the picture in this movie, but that one's up there too. Quality of the movie, not so much, but the picture is real. I thought it was really good. Maybe I'll get some feedback to the contrary, but for me, and I've said this since the beginning of this podcast, I think my very first podcast, for me, it's always been about the sound. And I happened to get an email from Tom this week, and I'll read the email right now, actually saying the same thing. So Tom says, "Hi DJ, I am having my first home theater built and I expect it will be completed by mid-September. I've never owned a dedicated home theater previously. I'm looking to line up some top quality home theater viewing experiences and wanted to get your recommendations. What do you consider to be your top 5 go-to movies or concerts that you would recommend to any enthusiast who is going to have their first home theater? Just a quick background on the theater. It's a dedicated room in a 3rd floor attic. It will be a 744 system with a 142-inch 2.35 screen and a JVC NX9 projector. Any of your top 5 recommendations that you might share with me for my initial break-in of this room would be greatly appreciated. Best regards, Tom." So, what a room. Fantastic room. 142-inch 2.35 screen. That's a big screen. That's a nice screen. And what a projector. The NX9. This is going to be a fantastic room. I can't wait to hear more about like the sound system. He's having it. We talked a little bit more after this. He's having somebody build it for him. He's going to have pictures. They're making a video. I'm going to make a video. A lot of fun. Fantastic room. But my recommendation has always been, as far as top 5, I have my 5. Okay. If you want to know what they are, I think I've said it here before. I won't say it again. If you want to know what they are, you can email me. I'll give them to you because it's always evolving. And that is always, new movies enter the fray, and I always compare them to my top 5. Hurricane Heist doesn't make the top 5, by the way. Anyways, so I gave them my top 5, but they all regard sound because picture is only part of it. And for me, at the beginning of this podcast, the very first podcast that I did, I said 70% is the sound of a movie is sound. And I really believe that because when you take the sound out, it ruins the experience. Just turn it down, turn it off, and you watch the scene. It doesn't even look the same. Nice picture is a nice picture, but it's still just a nice picture. So when you add in that sound, so my top 5 all have to do with the sound. But the other thing that I said to him is, especially when you're breaking in your home theater, what made you build a home theater? And that's what I went with this when I was telling him. It was like, when I built my theater, everything is Star Wars. To me, it's like that's the birthplace for me for home theater was Star Wars. And that's my experience. I've had other people say The Abyss. I've had other people say, there was one recently, somebody was saying that, I can't remember what it is. My mind's going blank. So we're going on long enough here. But anyways, what inspired you to build a home theater? That, to me, is what should be shown first in your home theater. The very first viewing, when it's completed, everything's done, and you're sitting down with your first box of popcorn, and you're going to push play for the very first time. That's to me what you should have as the very first viewing, because chances are that's the movie you've seen the most. And then when you watch it in your theater for the first time, you're going to probably be blown away. And it gives you that opportunity to re-experience that movie for the first time. in a way that you haven't done yet. And it's all for me. It's always been Star Wars. Always been Star Wars. When I sat down, anytime I upgrade a piece, it's Star Wars. Never mind building a home theater. And when I say Star Wars, it's A New Hope, Episode 4. So from there, it goes to probably Terminator 2, and then a bunch of other. Now I just start jumping around to scenes. But as far as you want to sit down with your family and you want to watch some movies, then I can give you some great scenes. Go through this podcast, go through the website, and you can see some of the scenes. And it's like, I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you probably know, like, these are all movies that have I done one yet that I don't recommend to watch in your theater? I don't think so, because that's why I do them. Sleepy Hollow. I think that was the only one last Halloween. But anyways, that's the question I get the most. It's a great question, but it is always evolving. And it is a personal question as well. So I can't wait to see Tom's Theater. Let's move along. Let's move along to some other comments this week. And Graham Kroll chimed in with, dude, I just discovered my friend has all the Star Treks on Laserdisc. And he obviously tagged it directly to me. And and he sent a video with it of a looping video of all of the Laserdiscs. I think they're laid out on the floor of all the Star Trek movies, which that's just fantastic. And Carl chimed in with a ton of emails this week, lots of news items. So the boys over at HT Guys and AV Rant are going to be busy with the news over there. But he also sent a link on how to choose the best home theater screen size from Audio Advice. And it wasn't that, I mean, you can find it, just Google that stuff. You can find how to choose the best home theater screen size and everything. And Rob at AV Rant says all the time, to get a 45-degree angle or 45-degree viewing angle, blah, blah, blah. You sit this distance and take these measurements and do this. But what I liked was what Carl said. He goes, nah, I say whatever size the room, just cover the entire wall, floor to ceiling, and sit 10 feet from it like we do. Huzzah! It's like, yes, that is, I mean, it really kind of is. It's like, what do you want? It's like, I think where you want to know your screen size is where you have a fixed size, like TV. Like I have a 75-inch TV. So how far do I need to sit from it, or how close to it do I need to sit to get a home theater experience, a cinema experience? That's where that stuff comes in. If you're starting from scratch, I just say bam, hit the front wall with a big giant screen and just sit where you think is comfortable, and then maybe you can adjust from there and go. Because honestly, that's what I did back 20 years ago when I built my screen, and I said, I want it this big and I want it here, and this is what I'm going for. And then later on you go, oh, when all of these facts start coming out and the internet's more prevalent with home theater talk and everything, and you go, hey, look at that, I'm right in the ballpark for 45 degrees. So I got there by being lucky. So you can't go wrong with just front wall. That's it. How big's your screen? Front wall. That's what I got. So that's how I ended up with mine. Well, that and what would actually, the dimensions would fit. But yes, bang out the front wall, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. All right, let's move along to movies and scenes. And first up, I have one from G. Cornell, but I don't have a timestamp for it. So he actually sent a YouTube video of a scene from U571, which as a movie, you can't go wrong from beginning to end as far as a home theater experience. But I keep forgetting to actually go in because there's no timestamp on the YouTube video. It's just the scene, and it's the scene with the depth charges. So I will revisit it next week when I get a chance to actually go into my U571 disc and actually find the timestamp, and then I'll document it on the website. But it's the scene where the depth charges start going off, and it is a fantastic scene. But anyways, we'll get to that one. But also this week, we have from WV Brew on Twitter, at WV Brew, at Brightside HT, Honest Thief, very engaging movie, really draws you in, well done. So I haven't seen that one, But I will tell you this, WV, it is on the way. I've never seen it. Honestly, never heard of it. It's a Liam Neeson movie. It says, never steal a man's second chance on the cover that he'd sent. And it says, Liam Neeson, honest thief. It actually might be here today as I'm recording this, because I bought it as soon as I saw your tweet, and I'm like, it's on the way. So I can't wait to check it out. Love Liam Neeson. Love those movies. Love his movies. So can't wait to check that out. All right. That's it for this week. That's all I have. I think that's quite a bit, actually. I didn't expect to go this long. So, all right. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to my 14 patrons. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody for supporting me on Twitter. You make that place fantastic. Twitter is not a cesspool. Twitter is fantastic. I am working out the Discord thing, because maybe if everybody can go there and we can have fun. I'm even hearing now that you can have video there too, so we could talk to each other. That would be a blast, and it make it centrally located. So I am looking into that. I'm hoping if it can make my life simpler, I will do it. If it gets too complicated, I don't think I can do it, because my life's already pretty complicated now. Did I tell you I have a wedding coming up? Very proud of that. Very excited for that. So until next week, lots of fun. Push play over and over. I am going to thank you again for so much for listening. I will see you next week. Now, go push play.
Hey, Fred. This has been a Hey Fred production, with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.
Hey, everybody. Guess I'm not done yet. Just finished putting the whole podcast together. Everything's done. Everything's edited. And this week I've come across this pillow quite a few times. It's in my basement, as a matter of fact. And when I was cleaning up after having the dogs down here for the storm, because they played with pillows, they played with everything. So I'll read you the pillow in a second, but it is so appropriate for this week's podcast, because we got this shortly after that hurricane back in 2011. And here's what it says. It says, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Hey, make lemonade out of, life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And that's basically what it was. And I was thinking about it all week while I was putting this podcast together. And I was like, that's what this movie is about. And I thought that was kind of funny, because not like that's what the movie is about. That's what this podcast about this movie is about, is because it's not the best movie, but you can have so much fun with it. And because it is fun in your theater. And you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And the first person to mention this to me, you can either email me or tweet at me and say, hey, quote the pillow. Life isn't about learning. What is it? Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. Email that to me, or the first person to email me, and I'm going to give both. First person to email me and the first person to tweet it at me. I'll email you. I'll give you a copy. I'll send you a copy, the 4K version of the Hurricane Heist. All right. Let's learn how to dance in the rain.